Last year at Money in the Bank 2024, John Cena officially announced that in 2025 he will be retiring, and we are officially entering that final match in just a couple of days from the recording of this video. What do you think of him officially retiring this year?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was something that was really crazy. Obviously, being in London, we kind of thought we were like, oh my god, we're going to get a big WrestleMania in London announcement from John Cena. He'll probably be on that show. It's something that he's talked about for so long. And then we get the announcement of his retirement. And like you said, it kind of just hits you like, oh, this is going to be the end. We finally have to get to that moment, and obviously it happens in every wrestler's career, but with John Cena being a childhood hero to so many people for so much of their childhoods and into their adulthoods even now, yeah, it's kind of crazy just to think that the man who was there every single week for over 15, 20 years straight is finally going to be exiting the company.
Yeah, as someone who isn't really a huge John Cena fan necessarily throughout, his entire career pretty much, I was kind of numb to him retiring until very recently, and in the last few matches where it's actually been really good recently and everything, I've kind of been like, oh, he actually is going to be gone. I actually will kind of miss John Cena. In this video, we just want to kind of go throughout his career starting from this year, and we're just going to kind of hit all the points that we like, maybe some that we didn't like, and just kind of give a thank you to John Cena for everything that he has done that was really good. But we're going to kick things off with what happened very recently. Obviously, he just lost the IC title to Dominic Mysterio when the Big Liv Morgan returned and all of that. But one of the big moments that did happen with Dominic was him winning the IC title and becoming a Grand Slam champion.
Yeah, Grand Slam for John Cena felt like something that should have happened so many years ago. The Intercontinental Champion is something that's always eluded him, and we kind of thought, oh, eventually he'll win it. But then once he's announced his retirement, it's like, oh, this is the last opportunity, and the man who was the champion at the time would be Dominic Mysterio. So eventually, be able to get that match between two different generations entirely is something that's really cool to see. And then for it to be a big moment for Dom, getting that match with John Cena, but also being the man to let John Cena be a Grand Slam champion is something I think will never be forgotten.
Yeah, something that people has been talking a lot about with Sheamus, and they share the same sentiment even more so with John Cena. But before that match, we also had a crown jewel match with AJ Styles, which was a very, very cool match. Maybe even his best match of the retirement tour. Arguably, we haven't yet watched his officially last match yet, so maybe that'll take the cake. But I would probably say the AJ Styles match was my favorite. Very cool stuff where AJ came out in his old TNA gear. He had a very cool announcement from Alicia Taylor where it talked about his TNA career. A really good pay-per-view this year too from WWE was Crown Jewel, and John Cena was a big part of that. The build to it where they kind of announced the match, everyone got very excited for it.
It was something that I think AJ Styles is one of John Cena's best rivals and one of the guys who gave John Cena his best matches throughout his entire career, I guess now with this last match at Crown Jewel. I'm glad that John Cena, has that same feeling that we have towards AJ Styles and kind of gave him his flowers, like you said, mentioning TNA, the Bullet Club, and stuff like that. I think it's really nice, and it gives you that idea that John Cena does actually care about the people he's in the ring with. He cares about kind of a lot of things that a lot of people don't think people care about. So it's nice to see the little details getting added.
But the thing before that was even a cooler thing, something that's still going on to this day that is very cool, and it really helped out the person that's currently the United States champion. That is because John Cena had his final SmackDown match versus Sami Zayn for the U.S. title. He did come up short, and Sami Zayn did get the win. However, that was the restart of the U.S. Open Challenge, where we also seen Ilya Dragunov eventually take the title from Sami Zayn and go on to have incredible run to kind of end this year and put a stamp on it to say, hey, Ilya Dragunov is back in WWE.
Yeah, the entire story of John Cena's last year in wrestling has kind of been just a look back on his greatest rivals, greatest moments, greatest accolades, just greatest things he's done inside the company. One of those being the U.S. Open Challenge. It has the ability to breed and make new stars in just over a single match. We've seen that with the likes of Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Dean Ambrose, Claudio. All these guys had their matches with Cena in that original Open Challenge run, and to have it again here with Sami Zayn starting it off with John Cena is something that was really cool and nice nice touch. And like you said, it gives opportunity to get Sami have his big match with Cena to eventually drop before returning Ilya Dragunov to kind of set up his run as well. So yeah, it's a great thing. It's simple things like that can go a long way. And yeah, it's kind of nice that it was John Cena to kick things off.
Yeah, without even, having a moment specifically with Ilya, he was able to help him by proxy kind of through Sami Zayn. The big thing was the heel turn, of course, of John Cena, but the even bigger thing was the face turn of John Cena. At SummerSlam with Cody Rhodes, just one of the better moments because we're all kind of like, all right, man, this heel turn stuff, it's not really working. We've gotten, maybe 1 or 2 good matches out of this. But I think it's about time to kind of end this and kind of let us go out on a positive note rather than what we're getting right now. And we did end up getting that at SummerSlam this year.
This entire year, like I said, was supposed to be looking back at John Cena's greatest rivals, his greatest opponent. But with The Rock not being around, it looks like they kind of paved or switched routes and went with this him slowly turning face going into SummerSlam. Then at SummerSlam, we finally get a big entrance from Cena for the first time, and yeah, it made for a good moment. Cody Rhodes going to win the belt once again, becoming a 2-time champion is definitely necessary and definitely going to be probably the change of when things went from good to really bad to good again, then at the start of it with this heel for the face turn. So yeah, it's definitely a huge moment, and the match that we're going to have at SummerSlam was amazing as well.
Yeah, the match at SummerSlam was a million times better than the match that we are about to talk about, and that is at WrestleMania. He became the 17th world champion, our 17th-time world champion, officially passing up Ric Flair. So yeah, that was obviously a crazy moment, but it was bittersweet because it was a great moment for him, and we got to celebrate that a little bit. But the match was just so anticlimactic and just kind of boring that we didn't really get to celebrate and kind of have a cool moment with him. And he was heel during the time, so he was having the weird outros or entrances and everything. So it was very kind of a weird moment where it's like you want to celebrate, but he's heel. He wasn't getting cheered at the time too heavily, but it was kind of just a crazy moment in time.
We kind of knew once he got to like the 12 World Championship run, he was still pretty early, or in the middle of his career. So we kind of figured eventually he'd make that 17th climb to be the number 1. But in fact that it took this long into the final year, I think kind of added a lot more. I think if you don't have this the 17th world title implication on that WrestleMania match, it means a lot less to what would happen, and I think kind of ruins that entire thing completely. I'm glad Cody was able to be the man to do it, being the biggest babyface, and eventually getting the win back over him. Obviously, it's a nice bit of business for him. The 17th world title is something that will always be probably his biggest achievement, like I said, just because it is something that no one's ever done as the 17th world champion.
Yeah, and the thing that kicked off this entire thing, we got the Royal Rumble, him getting tossed over by Jey Uso. But the thing that really kind of carried the year, the thing that Triple H really put a stamp on to say this is going to be the storyline of the year, is at Elimination Chamber. We've seen John Cena win the Elimination Chamber, but then also after it, we get the introduction to The Rock and also Travis Scott and Cody Rhodes. They have their crazy moment. The heel turn happens. I don't think anyone will ever forget. I know everyone will say that the heel turn was bad, and it was, but the actual heel turn itself at this moment on Elimination Chamber, everyone was kind of shocked and amazed, and this was the talk of the town about everything for the next month. There was bad moments, of course, but I do think they kind of made up for it towards the end of it, and we did get good stuff up until that point as well. But what was your thought of the turn itself, and then everything kind of leading into that Elimination Chamber turn?
Yeah, I think everything going into it was perfectly set up. You have the moment of, originally it wasn't supposed to be John Cena in this heel turn at all. It's supposed to be, you have the Elimination Chamber match, and then, obviously Cody being the champion, we knew that would be the match at WrestleMania, but also it was just The Rock and Cody. So for Cena to kind of stay in the ring, it was like, okay, something might happen here. Maybe we see Cody turn heel. That was kind of expected. Obviously Rock trying to get him to sell his soul to him. So yeah, you kind of thought, okay, what will Cody have to do to prove to The Rock that he's actually healed, actually saw the soul, that being attack John Cena? But I guess Rock kind of had it scouted and was like, you know what, I'll have John Cena do it instead. The moment itself is something that I think will never be forgotten. It's something that I think is easily the biggest moment of this year. It's something that was definitely necessary, and I definitely want to take it away if I had to go back and do it again.
Everyone has wanted to see the heel turn. When we got it, obviously it might have been kind of too late, and maybe they would have been better off just going full on, just like letting everyone just cheer him the entire year and just put him in cool situations to make people want to cheer him even more. So that way when he goes out, you're on this like, high of John Cena, and we unfortunately didn't get it that way. We got it the way we got it. But I will say, in general, I did kind of like the year of John Cena.
Things have definitely changed up for the better, and hopefully we finish off strong with this last match.
And for the second half of this video, we're going to highlight some of our favorite moments from John Cena throughout his entire career. And we're going to start this one off with something that was somewhat recently, but it was at 2021 Money in the Bank, where he made his big return after the COVID era sort of ended and we finally got the fans back in the arena. We see him return to have a face-to-face with Roman Reigns.
Yeah, it was something that kind of fans have been begging for. It's kind of like a little bit of a dream match in a way between John Cena and Roman Reigns, at least in this version of Roman Reigns, the kicking off of the Tribal Chief era. So, yeah, it was the big dog. Roman Reigns is the #1 guy in WWE at this point, and for John Cena to return, the biggest babyface now versus one of the biggest heels, setting up a big SummerSlam match later that year. So, yeah, the moment itself, the crowd went absolutely electric.
Another crazy moment that happened is something that we'll probably never see again, something of this nature. That's going to be the Firefly Funhouse match versus Bray Wyatt. Just one of the craziest matches that we've ever seen. They're just such a unique match with the character of Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, and John Cena playing into the different characters of that, bringing out the NWO and everything, and there were just so many kind of layers to that match to kind of break out, and different things like dream scenarios of John Cena that played out during it, and the feud in general with Bray Wyatt was something that I don't think anyone will forget.
Yeah, it's something that was incredibly unique, and especially for the time as well. Something that, for them to put out something of this quality was something that was not really seen. So, yeah, to get everything done the way they did, I think was really well done. And, yeah, it's definitely a really cool atmosphere. And also because this is the last time we've really seen Cena for pretty much over a year, I believe. So, kind of setting up into that 2021 return.
We also got the 2017 Royal Rumble match with AJ Styles. This is the match where he won the 16th time World Championship to officially tie Ric Flair's record.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite matches of John Cena's career and of AJ Styles as well. This is something that it was a huge moment, like you said. This tying Ric Flair is something that we thought Cena would have already done by this point, but this is his last world title run until this last year, so it's something that is really cool to think about. And I think this is the match where they didn't even leave the ring as well. Everything inside the ring, only using what they have at their disposal, was very cool to see. And yeah, it's two guys who we never thought we would see having multiple great matches, and yeah, it just shows how good both men truly are.
But another amazing thing that happened from John Cena's career that happened to multiple people, and it helped out people like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and different other people, was when he officially started his U.S. Open Challenge.
Yeah, this was part of the time where it was like the last real thing I remember from watching wrestling before I kind of took a little break. And yeah, it's something that I remember watching and just being so excited for, because every week you have this new opponent, usually being NXT guys who I wasn't too familiar with. But this is what I kind of got my first watchings of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, who would eventually get caught up later that year, where Kevin Owens would beat John Cena for the U.S. title. And yeah, this entire U.S. reign, or the Open Challenge run, was so fun. Like I said, you had matches with Claudio or Cesaro at the time. Moxley had a match. Sammy, Kevin, yeah, it was so cool, and definitely helped and kind of kickstarted a lot of people's careers, I guess, on the main roster at least. So yeah, something that for me, I will never forget.
Yeah, and then another legendary feud that I don't think anyone will forget who will have watched this. But one of the craziest times in WWE was his feud with CM Punk. Obviously, we got a match with them too this year. It wasn't the greatest match, but it was pretty good. It had consistent matches, very good matches. He walked out with the title during their famous Money in the Bank match, of course. And there was just a long history between these two where they hated each other, and now, in their final years, you see them where they're like, okay, let's do it one more time because we love each other. We realize that we're both one of the best wrestlers in the world, and very cool to see.
Yeah, this is part of the time where I was a diehard fan of wrestling, so I was watching every single week. I really wasn't watching pay-per-views, obviously, so I'd have to be there for the WrestleMania, having to convince my parents. So yeah, to see this, and when you have that moment where you find out CM Punk wins the world champion, it's like, oh my God, what's gonna happen now in WWE? John Cena kind of sacrificed the company in a way because he didn't want Vince to step in and Lauren Nice to step in to let CM Punk get that win. Such a cool moment. like you said, the reaction as well with the Chicago crowd is something that added to one of the best moments and made it the best moments, I think, is it being in Chicago. And yeah, everything going into it was set up perfectly. Who knows how much of it was real and how much of the reality was being shown. But yeah, it's something that I think made for some of the best TV in a time where they didn't have consistently great TV.
And you can't mention John Cena feud without mentioning this next person, Randy Orton. Obviously, this is a legendary feud that they've had multiple years and interactions with, going all the way back from like 2007, maybe even previous to that as well. But they've always been top guys of the company for a very, very long time, and going all the way into 2025, we're able to see another match for them where they are still some of the top guys in the WWE. So that's a crazy thing to see, where people were able to hold their career at the very, very high pedestal that they did have for this long. And Randy Orton's potentially going to go on for another, 3 to 5 years maybe. So a crazy time for professional wrestling to have people like that to last that long.
Yeah, I mean, this is two guys who I think are going to be synonymous with each other for the rest of their careers. Obviously, people are going to associate Randy Orton with Triple H as well, but when I think of Randy Orton, I think of his feuds, opponents, and stuff like that. I will always think about John Cena, and vice versa for Cena with Randy. But yeah, it's something that you see the biggest babyface make a rise to the top. You see the biggest heel at the time rise to the top, and you always had, these clashes. They had so many matches, so eventually you're going to have some stinker ones and ones that you've seen before, and move that you've already seen. So you eventually kind of got tired of it, but I can imagine when they first started interacting with each other, it was a huge deal. And I think it's, like I said, my favorite feud of John Cena is Randy Orton.
We also got one of the biggest, one of the best and most surprising returns of all time at the Royal Rumble 2008, where John Cena had an injury. It was a tricep, I believe it was. He had a tricep injury like 3 months prior to this, and he was supposed to be out for like 6 to 9 months, something of that nature. He was able to come back in 3, and that was kind of the start of Super Cena.
Yeah, this is one of the craziest things I think you've ever seen. You hear about athletes coming back, a little bit earlier than before, and they'll kind of make things work while they're still in season. But for wrestling, obviously, it being 24/7, you never want to lose your spot. For John Cena to be able to come back in such a little amount of time with a huge injury is something that I think doesn't get talked about enough, of how mentally insane that is, not only for him mentally, but like I said, physically as well. So yeah, this added for a crazy moment. We're going to set up the WrestleMania match with him, Triple H, and Randy Orton that year. Yeah, the reaction as well in Madison Square Garden of one of the best arenas of all time. Yeah, made for an absolutely incredible moment with JR in commentary.
Yeah, and we talked about his 17th breaking world record, and we also talked about his 16th tie-breaking world record, but it'd be a shame to not mention the very first world champion that he did win at WrestleMania 20 versus The Big Show. One of the legendary feuds before he would go on to face people at WrestleMania like Triple H, like Shawn Michaels, The Rock, Cody Rhodes, and just all these great people who will look back on and say, oh, he defeated a lot of these legends, a lot of these people who are all-time greats. And yeah, this was kind of what kicked all that off, where he won his first world title, and it would kind of signify to the WWE universe that, hey, this is the new guy, and he's going to be the guy for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, John Cena versus Big Show, I think, is the perfect WWE level match. John Cena isn't known for his technical wrestling. He's not Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson, AJ Styles. He is just a super mega star. He'll tell you a story. He'll make you feel things like he is an actor. But yeah, this is something that I think should definitely not go under the radar. Him versus Big Show is kind of, I guess, another generation's Andre versus Hogan moment, where you see John Cena finally pick up a 500-pound man, give him an AA, and win that world champion for the first time is something that just looks so crazy. And that was, like you said, set up John Cena for the rest of his career, really. And that, like you said, you can't have 17 without the number 1. So yeah, Big Show being able to do the job and helping out Cena is something that I think shouldn't be forgotten about.
Yeah, especially since we're able to see him do the AA to Big Show again, but also with Edge on the Big Show, and that was another kind of cool moment, including the Big Show. I want to toss in here. But we also, obviously, this is a cool thing that we got, where we got Punkonomics in 2025, but the originator of that was Thugonomics, and that is obviously what John Cena started. That was kind of his initial run. Obviously, it was obviously going to be the prototype, where he was wrestling as kind of a generic wrestler, basically, but the doctor of Thugonomics was the official entry of John Cena, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the Thugonomics is what pretty much saved his career in WWE. If it wasn't for that, he probably wouldn't have a job then in the next few years. You know, he doesn't get to be who we know as John Cena, the biggest face in pro wrestling history, potentially. And yeah, it's crazy to think that some white boy rapping would get you to the top of a WWE company.
John Cena started with his ruthless aggression promo. That was one of the big signifiers of his career, the big highlight moments of career. And we went through this video all the way up until this year, where he officially is going to retire this weekend at Saturday night's main event. Like I said, a bittersweet moment where you're happy that he's able to go out on his own and he's going to be healthy. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, even if you aren't a fan of Cena, you have to at least be a little bit sad for one of your childhood people that you watched for such a long time finally go away.
Yeah, I mean, John Cena is probably my first favorite wrestler, and probably will be my favorite wrestler of all time, just because he's a guy who, like I said, was able to last for so long in an industry that changes pretty much every single day. So be able to stick at the top for so long is something that I think is absolutely insane. And his work ethic, he's one of the guys who feel like a real human being outside of the wrestling ring. He's somebody who seems to be one of the nicest people alive. No one ever has anything bad to really say about him. So yeah, John Cena is somebody who I think a lot of people look up to for good reasons, and yeah, he was definitely the perfect guy for a perfect role to play, you know, a superhero.
I don't think there's really a better way off to end this video than with these 4 words, and that is thank you, John Cena.